Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast.
Oh gosh, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You leave me no choice. Here comes the smolder.
Wait, you like that?
No,
you don't like that?
No, I don't like that.
No, how about that? You like that?
A little better.
Bread makes you fat?
Does this count as annoying?
Just tell me what you want me to fuck!
Not you, and not you.
Okay, I think it's time to take off your clothes and jump me.
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool?
I drink your podcast. I drink it up!
Welcome to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. We are just in the tail end of our 2010 season, and we've got another special episode coming for you today because we are doing a movie that is a reboot, prequel, or sequel in True Grit. With me today is Dylan.
Hello.
And Brandon.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And my name is Ben, and I'd like to again thank everyone for joining us today. Please like, rate, subscribe, share us with a friend or two. You can follow us on social media at IDYP_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Maybe. This episode doesn't come out for another week. Twitter seems like it may not be a thing in a week. Find us on Instagram if you lose us on Twitter. Before we jump into True Grit, though, what is in your glass today, Brandon?
I just have Gatorade. I have the Blue Frost Quencher Gatorade because it looked like it was cold in this film. So that's what I've got right now.
It definitely looked cold in this film. We'll definitely talk about that. Dylan, what do you got?
Once again, I got some Coors Light because, they're up in them mountains. So I'm going to drink from the mountains.
Yeah, beautiful. I went with stiff whiskey drink. I felt that was in line with the cowboy theme. Now, you two, I know you guys try to watch as many movies as possible. I saw one recently that just came out. Have either of you seen Weird, the Al Yankovic story yet?
No.
I have not. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, it is on Roku channel. And what the fuck is wrong with you? Why aren't you watching this? Because it is a fun fucking movie. Daniel Radcliffe, I freaking love that guy. I love the risks he takes in the movies he chooses. Like, he went from Harry Potter to just being like a farting corpse in a movie and doing this Miracle Worker show on TBS. He just makes such interesting decisions, and I love it. This movie was written by Weird Al himself, so imagine his entire life through the lens of his comedy style, and that's what you get with this movie. It's a bit of Walk Hard, but entirely like Weird Al, and I can't recommend it enough. It's a lot of fun. Just know that you're not getting a traditional biopic. You're getting Weird Al just making shit up, and if you go in with that thinking, you're going to enjoy it.
I figured as much from seeing some of the trailers and stuff like that, it's just him going, yeah, we're just going to take all those tropes and just throw them in there, and whatever sticks and is funny, yep, we'll keep it there.
Yep,
right.
Absolutely. I mean, were you guys big Weird Al fans?
Yeah.
I watched VH1 once, and anything he's been, I mean, it was a long time ago when I saw it. And then anything he's been in, it's never like, oh, I don't like Weird Al. Like Just Eat It was like one of my favorite songs as a kid. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a really good joke about Eat It in the movie, so it's actually a linchpin of the plot. It's quite good.
Nice.
Brandon, now, there was a book that came out probably 15 years ago, and it was called Stuff White People Like. And one of the things in it was musical comedy. Is that true that that's like a white person thing?
I can't talk for all black people.
No, I know.
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. So like Flight of the Conchords, Weird Al, that's not...
No, you don't see a lot of... not really.
Okay.
What about Tenacious D? Come on.
I think it's funny. But I'm not gonna be like...
got one.
I'm not gonna be like... what I think was actually really funny that was... I mean, are we counting Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
No? But we'll probably talk more about Oh Brother Where Art Thou later, because that's...
Definitely, yeah.
Let's talk about this movie, and we watched True Grit this week, which is not available anywhere to stream unless you have the Showtime add-on on your Paramount Plus subscription or on Prime. Who has that, though? Like, come on.
Mr. Cogburn, in your 4 years as U.S. Marshal, how many men have you shot?
Shot or kill?
Let us restrict it to killed so that we may have a manageable figure.
Mr. Cogburn?
What do you want, girl?
I'm looking for the man who killed my father. The man's name is Tom Chaney, and I need somebody to go after him.
What's your name?
My name is Maddie Ross.
True Grit is currently at 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and was nominated for 10 Oscars, including Best Picture, Actor, Supporting Actress, Directing, Adapted Screenplay, Cinematography, Costume Design, Sound Mixing, Sound Editing, and Art Direction.
Damn.
It is one of 5 films to be nominated for 10 or more Oscars and to win 0.
Ouch.
I want to know what beat them out. Well, it's, you know what, that was a pretty tough year, so.
Yeah, and we can talk a little later about the stuff that beat them out, but yeah, to go 0 for 10, that's pretty phenomenal to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I honestly think this is low key probably one of the Coen brothers' best films that nobody's ever seen. I think
this movie is directed by the Coen brothers, who also made movies like Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Fargo, Big Lebowski, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and No Country for Old Men. This is, to date, the Coen brothers' most profitable movie. So you say people didn't see it. This one is the only one to make over $100 million at the box office.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw it at the Regal in Egan, when I think it was still the Regal, it was a packed house.
Mm-hmm.
It
was
packed with people, yeah.
See, I saw it, like, I didn't see it until it came out to actually, like, on DVD or whatever. And I really wanted to see it at the movies, but I'm like, you know, I'm the only person that likes Westerns that I know, other than my like grandmother. Like, I'm the only person. Well, my parents like it too, but they're in St. Louis, so I didn't have a chance to take them. But when it came out, I was like, yo, this is really good. And I really liked, I had never seen the original, but I knew the original has the Duke in it. So I was like, maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't. But like, I knew this was going to be good regardless. But I didn't know it was their most profitable film. I would have sworn up and down it was going to be No Country, for just because of the other actors in No Country. But
yeah, and No Country did get the accolades because of the Oscars, but it was not a huge hit in theaters.
Yeah.
Starring in this movie is Jeff Bridges, who was nominated for Best Actor for this movie, which is an award he won the year before this movie for the movie Crazy Heart. I don't believe he earned it for Crazy Heart. I thought that should have gone to Mickey Rourke that year for The Wrestler, because that performance is incredible.
Yeah.
But this was his 6th acting nomination. He was also in movies like The Last Picture Show, King Kong, Tron, Starman, and The Dude in Big Lebowski. Also starring in this movie is Haley Steinfeld, nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this role. This was her first role in a feature film, for which she beat out 15,000 other girls who auditioned.
Jesus.
She bodied it. She killed this role.
Yes.
Oh,
we'll definitely talk about that. So good. Lastly, we'll call out Matt Damon, star of movies like Good Will Hunting, Saving Private Ryan, Talented Mr. Ripley, The Departed, and the Bourne trilogy of the mid-2000s. This movie also features many other actors that are very talented. Josh Brolin, Barry Pepper, Domhnall Gleeson, and J.K. Simmons, just to name a few.
Who was J.K. Simmons? I don't remember. For some reason, I can't remember seeing him.
He was just a voiceover part where he played the I've got a good lawyer that she keeps referencing. That's J.K. Simmons.
He's the lawyer.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's what I thought when I never thought that until I watched it this time. And there were a few moments where I was just like listening to it and I was like, is that J.K. Simmons? Because because it didn't normally sound like him. There were just a few words where I was like, yeah, that's him.
Is that the fucking peanut M&M?
I never picked up on it.
Well, Brandon, tell us what this movie was about straight off the back of the DVD cover.
After an outlaw named Tom Chaney murders her father, a feisty 14-year-old girl named Maddie Ross hires Rooster Coburn, a boozy, trigger-happy lawman, to help her find Chaney and avenge her father. The bickering duo are not alone in their quest. A Texas Ranger by the name of LaBeef is also tracking Chaney for reasons of his own. Together, the unlikely trio ventures into hostile territory to dispense of some old Western-style justice.
Woo! And that they do. Now, from what I'm gathering from what you two have just said, this is not your first viewing of this movie. Is that correct?
No.
No.
Give me your initial thoughts on this one, or at least this watch.
I watched The Frame a lot more this time. It's and I didn't realize it was Deakins until I had to go back and look and see it, and look for it. And then it was literally the first scene when you finally see Bridges, and he's in the I guess he's in like the courthouse and he's talking, and I stopped it, and Tisa, well, my wife was like, oh, they like it's got the color little smoky stuff in the background. I said, no, that's cool too, but they had to use something to blow out that light. It's probably some HDMI or something, or like HMI blowing out the light in the back. And then if you look at the other side, it's like, the back outside is daylight balance, the inside is balanced for tungsten. And I was all into just that frame and how you do that. And I know I've said it before, like this dude does a master class every time he's behind the camera. And it's not just him. I know it's him and his wife too. It's like, it's basically a team. But I watched The Frame so much more, especially for those like close-up scenes and those nighttime scenes. I really, really looked at, because I knew what the story was going to be, but I had to watch more of what they were doing to tell the story.
Yeah.
And that's probably what I paid the most attention to this time around.
Okay. Dylan?
I'm a guy, I love my actors and I love my character actors. That's something that is all that I'm all about. And I think that's something that the Coen brothers love too, is they love hiring character actors to do bit parts that can do it masterfully. I thought everybody was perfect where they were supposed to be. I thought, other than to what Brandon is referring to with the cinematography and how beautiful it looks and everything, other than Dances with Wolves from 1989, I've never seen another movie shot like Wilderness that's more beautiful than True Grit and Dances with Wolves.
Ooh, okay, I'd like to push back on that a little bit, because I thought the environment filmmaking was really well done. Obviously, Deakins is a master at what he does. I thought the choice of making it kind of a bluer environment to really match more the tone and themes of this movie, I thought that hurt the environment shooting. Because when I see the environments, I want to see the vibrant colors that exist on Earth, like the color palette of which God paints, that whole thing. Like, that's what I like to see in my environment movies. So I thought the environment looked very dull in this one, but not at the fault of the cinematographer, at the fault of what they were trying to do to tell the story.
It's the one that I thought was actually pretty decent. It's more of a recent film. It's News of the World.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. That one actually does the environment pretty well. I also thought 310 to Yuma did it pretty well too. I don't think this one's bad. I don't think this one's bad at all though.
No, I don't. And again, with Deakins, you're never going to get bad out of Deakins. Like, even when it's a stylistic choice, it's not going to end up being bad. But I prefer the look of No Country for Old Men much more to this one, or in thinking of like Into the Wild, which again is another major environmental filmmaking movie that had just gorgeous landscapes. Or even more recently, Brandon, I know you weren't able to be on with us, but you watched Valhalla Rising, and Valhalla Rising had some beautiful environmental shots as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was very nice to look at. Even it was toward the end with the whole rock structure. I don't know where they scouted that out at, but it looked amazing.
Now, I remembered two things from the first time I saw this movie, which was probably 10 years ago. I remembered Haley Steinfeld's performance, and I remembered Deacon's shooting of the film, and those are the same things that stood out to me again as my favorite parts of this movie. By and large, though, guys, I did not like this movie. And really? I think in hearing you guys talk that you both liked it. So I think we need to get into this, because there are parts of it that I didn't like. And let me lay out what I didn't like, the main 2 points, and then you guys can come at me, okay?
All right.
The first part is the movie's largely without an on-screen antagonist for the first 2/3 of the movie. It's the duo and trio just kind of wandering through deadly encounter after deadly encounter. And I didn't find that super compelling. I would have rather had an antagonist that was a consistent through line for the movie. Like, you've got Cheney as like, I actually wrote a note. Is Cheney a MacGuffin? Because I didn't remember that part of the movie. Like, do they ever actually find Cheney was what I was thinking 2/3 of the way into this movie, because it just felt like he's the thing that sets the plot in motion. and then he doesn't show up until the last third. And I didn't like that. And the other piece is, while this is definitely a character movie, it's one where the lessons learned by the characters don't reveal anything about like the greater humankind or humanity. The characters learn things for themselves, but I didn't feel like I had anything that I could take away from this movie. And that's what I look for in character movies. I look for identifying myself in the characters that are on screen and being able to apply things to my own life. And there were no grand epiphanies about life in this movie. And with how much talking is in this movie, I thought that was a detriment to it. Now come at me.
Well, first, and I will admit I have not seen a whole lot of Westerns, but from the classic ones that I have seen, and Brandon, if I'm wrong on this, because it sounds like you've watched more Westerns than I, but it sounds like a lot of these Westerns, the antagonist really doesn't come into it until the third act of the movie, because he's just been built up into this like monolithic type of a character. And then when you eventually see him, that makes then that third act more exciting, or, you know, that's kind of how I would come at it with, is that they've built Chaney up to be this like really not skilled, but that he's a pretty good criminal considering, you know, he's committed 3 or 4 crimes in 3 or 4 different states, and he's gotten away every single time. You know, and most of the time it seems like he's always gotten away like by the skin of his teeth.
Right.
Like just barely gotten away.
It kind of had, and I've never seen the original, but it kind of had like a High Noon feel to it. If you've ever seen High Noon, it's like you know, somebody's coming, but you don't really see the bad guy to the very end. You don't really get that whole like you know he's on his way, but there's no real interaction with like the two antagonists, to the protagonist and the antagonist to the very end of the film. So with this, it just felt like it felt more questish like to me. Like it's these 3 people trying to find a person. It didn't feel like there had to be any other kind of character development or aha moment, or, you know, I grew as a person type moment. Maybe for the exception of probably Rooster at the end, because you find out that he's actually a more redeemable person than he actually makes himself out to be in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's like it's basically it's almost like you're following this little girl to actually finish what she has to do because her father was killed. That's it. And that's all I took it for. So I didn't take it for I didn't feel like anybody had to grow as a person. Like that's kind of what it is. Because what she is in the beginning is what she is at the very end. She's the same thing.
And I would say that's a fairly common thing in the classic Western movies, is they are a very simple tale. There's not a lot of push to it. There's not a lot of, you know, characters don't necessarily grow or anything like that. It's just, we need to go from here to get this person, or from here to get this gold, or whatever it is at the very end. And there's not a whole lot else there. And that's where this movie feels like a classic Western, as opposed to something like Tombstone, which is a Western, but it's like, what if Michael Bay made, not Michael Bay, what if Jerry Bruckheimer, what if he made a Western? It would be very similar to like Tombstone.
Mm-hmm.
But this was much more like the classics of John Wayne and others.
Like it kind of made me wonder, like, it's, again, I haven't seen the original, so I don't know how the original goes. And then I haven't seen the original of 3:10 to Yuma, but it feels like 3:10 to Yuma, there's like that whole turning point for that particular villain, or that the villain was always like that all along. He just had to be reminded of what it is to actually be in a family, have somebody that actually has purpose, be an honorable person. Then he knew off rip he was doing this for his son anyway. So to kind of actually see that whole character kind of turn that corner, or not necessarily turn that corner, but just like acknowledge, okay, I know what this is. But this film, it just felt like this is what we're out to do, and that's pretty much it. And I still think it was done well. It's still one of my, as far as modern Westerns go, it's probably one of my favorite modern Westerns.
Wow.
I mean, modern as in being like the last, like, what, 10,
25
15 years? Yeah, 25 years. Yeah, I say it was probably one of my favorites, I would say.
And I do want to say that I thought all three characters of the main characters had clear growth arcs that they experienced throughout the movie.
Mhm.
It's just none of them resonated with me, or none of them had dialogue where it's like, oh, that hits me right in the heart. And I can reflect on that and like impart that into my life. And that's what I look for in character movies. I look for that piece that's like, how can I pull this into myself and make myself a better person or grow from this? And I just didn't feel that in this movie. All of the dialogue in this movie was much more about the task at hand and the in-universe than anything that applied to like greater humankind. And I wish a movie like this, especially one that's going to be nominated for Best Picture, would have had that moment that really, tugged at my heart and made me want to be different or better. But one thing that this movie does do well is it tackles the theme of revenge. And I want to know, what do you guys think this movie has to say about revenge? Because in this way, it kind of reminded me of The Revenant a little bit in the idea of I'm completely compelled in what I'm doing by this idea of revenge.
I would almost say that it gives the idea that revenge is not necessarily always the best thing to go into.
So you're saying it's a cautionary tale?
God. In a way, yes. And my only reasoning with that is because with Haley Steinfeld's character, how she, through her revenge, really didn't grow up to be much of a person. She kind of grew up to be, grew up to almost be like a female version of Rooster.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really care about anybody else. Just, was kind of this is my way. This is it for me. And I think that kind of hurt her in the long run. That revenge is, it's good every now and then, but it may come back to haunt you throughout your whole life.
Well, and the hauntings begin immediately. Like, she shoots him and then immediately falls into a pit, gets bitten by a snake and loses her arm. And then not long after that, her horse dies. Like, the idea of like comeuppance for your revenge plot, like, it happens immediately. It's not like, 25 years later, she is an old maid who hasn't like found a person to spend her life with.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, like, she suffers immediate consequences for this revenge.
Yeah, well, I'm more meaning kind of like it was almost like a set of dominoes. Like the second she got that revenge, it just kind of started falling from there to where we then end up with her without an arm and just bitter, seeming very bitter.
I think it just told me that I need to have a daughter, because if I get popped off, I know my daughter's going to ride hard as fuck for me. That's what that told me. I was like, this is why guys need daughters.
You don't think Titan's going to be riding off to defend you if that happens?
If mom dies, definitely. Me, old man, he don't care about the old man like that.
I don't know about Lily. I don't see my daughter Lily getting on a horse and well, I see her getting on a horse with a horn because it's a unicorn, but I don't see her getting revenge.
It kind of felt like who she was in the beginning, like when she was kind of like negotiating down the other guy for everything, and then she was a very intelligent girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of makes a mention about her mom, saying that, like, well, my mom couldn't, basically saying that mom can't read. So, and then when she gathers all of her dad's stuff, you see, a few things, see a gun here, coin purse there. Then you see her dad's like a mason. So you see the whole mason thing over there. And I'm saying, oh, okay. So with me, and this is just me, I don't know if I'm just making an assumption, I always think that people that go into like, that become masons are educated individuals in some way, shape, or form. So I'm thinking maybe she got that from him, so she's more like him. You know what I'm saying? It kind of not brought up a totally different way, but has a different mindset to not be meek, sit back in the shadows, not do stuff. So I think because of that, that's probably another reason why she never married, because she probably never felt that, well, I'm not going to let a man do X, Y, and Z to me because I wasn't brought up like that. So that's why I kind of lean that toward, not so much that Well, I mean, she loses her arm, yes, and she falls in the pit, which is very terrible as well. And the horse dies. But I mean, it's all pretty bad. But I think even if that didn't happen, I think she would have went down that way anyway. It felt like, because it felt like she was her own person off top.
I can see what you're saying there, Brandon, on that. Just because there was that slight line that even I missed a few times seeing this movie was when she finally encounters Cheney, and he's saying, "You're the little accountant."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it sounds like Dad's been, you know, you want to talk about nature versus nurture. It was definitely nurtured into her a little bit because she's been trained very much to be kind of a right-brained type of person, analytical, mathematical, very black and white. There's not a whole lot of gray in the world. And when you put her against people like Rooster and Lucky Ned and these other characters, you start to see, nope, there is some gray in the world, you know. Yeah. And I don't think that really affects her character, but it's just kind of nice to see that she's seeing the world now is not this just right, wrong, black, white thing. There's shades to the world.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Oscar nominations that it got, because 10 is a lot. And I want to know, do you feel that all of them were justified? Because obviously, I don't think it warrants a Best Picture nomination. And I think it only got one because there were 10 nominees this year instead of the preferential balloting or the 5 nominees that were there before. I think it got in because of that. What do you guys think? Like, which ones do you agree with and which ones do you maybe not agree with? Give me one or the other.
What ended up winning Best Picture, I guess, because I can't remember.
The King's Speech. Oh. But it was really between The King's Speech and The Social Network were the two that were like the ones duking it out at the end.
Yeah.
Social Network was tough, man. That was a tough ass movie.
I would say the two acting were warranted because Jeff Bridges, I think, is, now that he's gotten older, I would say after he made Big Lebowski, he really spread his wings and just flew as an act, you know, and just really did a lot of interesting, different stuff, and just kind of reached that point in his career where he's like, I'm old. Who cares? I don't care anymore. I'm just going to do stuff because this seems interesting to me. So I'm going to do it.
What's interesting about that, Dylan, is Bridges is one that I have listed as not justified. But I think that a lot of that has to do with because I feel like this character is who Jeff Bridges is because of movies like R.I.P.D. or Hell or High Water, where he plays the exact same character again.
But these came after he did this, though.
No, I understand. And I think that's what makes me think that it's not justified, because I'm like, this doesn't feel like it's anything new for Jeff Bridges. Like, it feels like he's like sleepwalking through this and he could do this role without even trying.
So he's got like the Samuel Jackson effect. Like Sam Jack is Sam Jack all day long.
100%.
I think that's kind of holding it against him looking
retroactively.
Backwards.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily the most fair thing to say, but you know, but I can see your point, but I still think that he really encompassed a really memorable character for me. And yeah, it just worked for me.
Who won Best Actress?
Best Supporting Actress that year?
Yeah, because that's what's best, because
was the woman from The Fighter, Melissa Leo.
Yeah, that's when The Fighter won Best Supporting Actor and Actress. Yeah,
and then Best Actor that year was Colin Firth for The King's Speech,
which for some reason I never wanted to watch. I don't know why.
Well, we're covering it in 2 weeks, so if you want to watch it, it'll be on Pudio for you.
All right, I'll check it out.
Can I just say, justified fully is Roger Deakins for cinematography?
Yes.
Like, does anyone disagree with that? Like, he absolutely earned that nomination for this movie.
It's kind of hard to go against. Well, what ended up winning? Social Network.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
See, those are two really good. Those are probably two of my favorite cinematographers. Like I don't know why I can't think of the guy's name from cinematographer for Social Network.
Sorry, best cinematography was Inception that year to Wally Pfister.
Oh yeah, damn right. Yeah, okay, never mind. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Roger can take a hit on that. That dude is and not to get off base. I know you guys already did the film. That was my first semester in the film program up here. We lost our shit after we watched that movie. We came
Inception?
back. We lost our shit. That's all we talked about. Even to this day, I still go back and I watch like the last 2 minutes of that film. The whole that whole score.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite song from any film ever is like Time. Like that whole part I just watched and how it's cut, how nothing is said. It blows me away every time. I mean, I literally watched it back to back 5 times straight and be like, this is just amazing. Like it's just so subtle. Everything's so cool in it. But I digress. Deacons is the shit, but that film definitely should have won without a doubt.
The only other one I didn't think was justified was art direction, just because I didn't feel like this one set itself apart that much from any other Western movie. So it just felt like it kind of coattailed it into that because it was a period piece instead of actually having unique art direction.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe costume design. I like the costume. I mean,
costume design I feel was justified. I thought the costumes looked really good.
I thought the writing was good too. I mean, I thought it was because you have to have some type of banter back and forth that's actually kind of comical, so it's not all serious. And like, I thought all the quips were really good.
That's something that the Coens are masterful at, is dialogue. But they're so good at planting those little funny lines into the movie that shouldn't be necessarily funny, but you can't help but laugh at them. 2 great examples that I always have throughout this movie is one, when the Undertaker keeps telling Matty Ross that you can kiss him, that would be okay. You know, this is like, okay, she gets it. You don't need to tell her 4 or 5 times. And the other one when she cuts the dead hanging guy down, and Brewster goes, I do not know this man. And just and then that kind of how that goes throughout the movie, how he kind of goes, I know this man, you know.
Yeah, hilarious, dude. The one I liked was what was it? A harpy in trousers and a nincompoop. That was hilarious. Yeah. If you wet your comb, you might actually tame that cowlick.
Yeah, that was a good one.
God. You could probably shoot that gun if you had a stump to put it on, a wall behind you, which kind of played out because she was getting that kickback in every gun she had was pushing her back pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so many decent one-liners and stuff in this. It's actually really, really good.
Agreed on the screenplay. Let's jump into the good, bad, and weird since we're talking about some things that we are enjoying about this movie. Specifically, what won this movie for you?
I gotta say, I loved Barry Pepper for the little amount of time that he's in this movie.
Yep,
he blows it out of the water. Because honest 100%. To God, I did not know it was him until I saw it on like IMDb or in the credits. I was like, holy shit, that was Barry Pepper? He was amazing. He was so good.
I noticed Barry Pepper the second he showed up, and I was like, thank God Barry Pepper's here. His performance in this is riveting. Like, he is so good in this.
Yeah. It bums me out when I see him in movies, and he's so good, and I'm like, why is he not in more?
Yeah.
Why is this guy not a bigger star? I know he made Battlefield Earth. Can we please forgive him for Battlefield Earth and get him something better?
Dylan, I'm so glad we're on the same page on this, because as I'm watching it, my brain was like, how can I write a script to let Barry Pepper be the star in a movie? Like, what script can I write for Barry Pepper? That was my thought as I'm watching his performance in this, because it was truly so good. The way he's shouting for Rooster, and like you can see the spit on his beard.
Yes.
Oh, so good.
For me, I know I normally go the cinematography route, but I think Haley just fucking bodied this fucking whole film.
Yes.
She killed this shit from beginning to end. For it to be her first for real film, I think before all she did was a couple TV shows.
Yep, that's a couple of short films. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like she goes on to be Gwen Stacy, and she goes on to be who else? like the Hawkeye's protege, and then she's just
Gwen
amazing.
Stacy
She's the voice of Gwen
Into the
Stacy.
Spider-Verse?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yep.
I mean, it's just. I know the other guys are powerhouses, but she legit carried it for me. I know it's mostly her anyway. It's supposed to be mostly her, but like it wasn't like if the other guys weren't there, I couldn't watch it. Like you kind of wait for her to say something, or you wait for her to react in some way, shape, or form. I thought she killed it. You couldn't have cast a better person, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I like the powerhouse performance that Bridges and Damon give. The fact that she can even stand up to them and stay on the same screen as them is just phenomenal, because a lesser child actor would have kind of blended into the background in these movies, and Damon and Bridges would have just overshadowed them. But Steinfeld from jump was on point, handling all those adult-like lines. Like her negotiation scenes were some of my favorite scenes in the movie.
My God.
Where she's just throwing it back at him like, oh, so good. And most children could not pull off those lines. As a theater director of children, most children cannot do what she did in this movie.
Yeah. And I remember after this came out, this was right around when they were announcing the Hunger Games movies. And the only two people I ever heard were Haley Steinfeld and Jennifer Lawrence.
Yep.
Those were the two I always heard. And I had not seen Winter's Bone until seeing it with the Best Picture Showcase. So seeing that True Grit and that. And I think she might have been named after I saw it, or before or after. I can't remember when. Doesn't matter. But I was one of those people where I was kind of like, I wonder what it would have been like with Haley Steinfeld in that role and not Jennifer Lawrence. It in some parallel universe, I'd like to see that series of movies with her instead, just to see what would have happened.
Yeah, they both could have pulled it off.
Yeah.
100%. I'm glad that you guys took the two serious ones so that I can focus on my winner as something that's not serious. Appreciate you guys. Whoever made the decision to have Rooster kick that kid off the porch twice, genius.
Shit, yes.
My God, I laughed so hard the first time I had to pause the movie, and then he did it a second time, and I couldn't contain myself.
And again, that's going with the Coens of just like that amazing writing or ideas or whatever. If that was just something they thought of on the fly, or if Bridges thought of it. But yeah, that second kick was like icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It's
so good.
Kids.
And then the other one is, if there's one thing this podcast loves, it's horse acting. And that horse crossing the river and then later running for a long time and then falling over in exhaustion. Phenomenal acting by that horse. Well done, horse.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into the bad, though. Was there anything bad about this movie that you guys noticed?
I sadly, I did not have anything, but that's...
Wow.
But you know me, though, Ben. I'm one of those people where
optimist.
I'm always an optimistic person.
Yep.
I can watch a piece of garbage movie and go, well, at least it had this and that wasn't so bad. It's hard for me to be a pessimist and find something bad in a movie.
I'm the pessimist then, because I found something. I don't understand what Josh Brolin was doing in this movie as far as a performance. Like, maybe it would have made more sense if I'd read the book, but he seems to be playing the guy as if he was like kicked in the head by a horse at some point in his life. Did you guys get that too? Like, he seemed slower than everybody else.
I got a little sense of specialness to him.
And I thought they always referred to him not being smart. So I figured that's what it was. Like, he was just basically getting by because he's with a gang, and he was able to latch onto the gang and get out and do that type. Like, you get that off top that he's not a bright guy.
Yeah, and I think it's just because Coen Brothers movie, Josh Brolin, I was expecting the guy from No Country for Old Men when I knew that Josh Brolin was the guy coming, and then when the character is so different from that. So I think it's just me as a viewer not being able to handle my own expectations. But yeah, something about him when he started talking, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, what is this decision that you're making? But then I called out my other bad earlier when we talked about just my initial thoughts on the movie.
I don't know if I have any bad. It's just a restaurant to me. I think it's I guess to me, you have to really try hard to mess up a Western. And there's been some Westerns that are okay. Some Westerns are better than others, but it feels like it's a basic formula for a Western, and I think it followed it to a T, and I didn't have any problems with anything in it at all.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on Jonah Hex or Cowboys and Aliens, Brandon? Have you seen either of those?
I've seen them both. I can forgive Jonah Hex a little bit because it's based off of a comic book, so they tried to adapt it. Cowboys and Aliens, it's
I think that's it right there. That's the soundbite right there.
It's not, again, it's not the word. It's not a good Western, but it's. I've definitely seen worse movies.
Sure. If you didn't have any bad, how about weird? Because can I call out my weird right away? Because I don't want you guys to steal this one. Farm animal Michael Winslow.
Oh, that guy was so weird. Yeah.
That guy just throwing out farm animal noises out of nowhere, and that was his whole character. Like, I don't know if that's in the book or the original movie, but my God, when he jumped out of there and did like the turkey noise, I was like, what the fuck is happening right now?
I think, again, for me, the weird is something that's in every Coen Brothers movie, and that's just quirky characters. And like that would encompass the Turkey Man.
Yeah.
You know, as part of that, and
the Doctor.
Yeah, the Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Wearing the bear skin.
The bear head.
Those are just kind of odd, weird, quirky characters. And that would probably be my weird of it was just those people. But they also make the movie endearing.
My weird was, what do you do with the corpse back then? Because it felt like when they ran into the Native American guy, he took the corpse, and then the corpse comes back with somebody else. I thought, for some reason in my head, I thought that guy shot the Native American dude and took the corpse. But if that's the case, if he wanted the corpse, why wouldn't he just have two corpses? So maybe he just traded for him?
He traded for it because he tells us what he traded for it to get the corpse.
Yeah, like some dental mirrors and some tonic or something like that.
But like, what are you doing with the corpse? I don't understand what you're doing with the corpse at that time.
Well, he's a dentist, so he's probably practicing his craft, I would guess, on the guy's teeth.
Well, remember what he said? He said, I've already pulled all of his teeth.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they made implants or something like that out of dentures or something like that out of dead people's teeth. I don't know. But I thought that was kind of funny that, you know, they cut down the dead body, then one guy takes it only to have it come right back to him.
Yeah. My only other weird was there were some comments made by LaBeef when he first meets Maddie where he mentioned wanting to kiss her.
Yeah, that was
weird.
And
just her being a 14-year-old in this movie, that made me feel icky. And then right after she starts talking, he mentions wanting to beat her, like hit her.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, this is a weird first interaction for a character in this movie. After such a great introduction, too, like that introduction of Matt Damon with the flicking of the match, and that's the only light on his face. Oh, Deakins killed that shot. That's my favorite shot of the movie.
That's classic Western right there.
Yeah.
You know, but that's kind of what I loved also about Matt Damon's character in the movie. I'm sorry to say, to go off topic, but how he's, I'm a Texas Ranger, and he acts like he's just so tough and macho.
Yeah.
But the second he gets out there, he kind of falls apart, and he's a little sensitive on the inside about being like kind of made fun of or talk negative and about or the Rangers themselves. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Let's put our final thoughts together on True Grit and put a cork in this thing. And we're going to start with Dylan. Dylan, what are your final thoughts on True Grit?
I think it's a fantastic movie for people who want to try to get into watching Westerns. I know after I saw this, I wanted to watch some of those classic old Westerns like The Searchers and the original True Grit. So I would say, yeah, if you want to try Westerns, give this one a try. And if you like it, move on to like the stuff by John Ford and many others that were classic movies out there. They're widely available too, if you look.
Nice. Brandon.
I would agree. Same thing. This is You could say it's almost like it's a starter Western, if you really want to get into it. I know like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, a few dollars more for a fistful of dollars, and for a few dollars more, really long. This doesn't feel as long to me as some Westerns do. So yeah, and then it's the Coen Brothers, it's Deakins. I thought it was very witty. Yeah, you can't really go wrong with this one, I don't think, if you're starting out watching Westerns.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I would start, if I were trying to turn someone onto Westerns, I would start with one that's a little more action-packed. Like, I feel like 310 to Yuma is a good starter Western because it's one that has a lot of those action scenes built in that can pull in someone who's into other genres of film. This movie feels very talky. It's well-paced, and jumping from deadly encounter to deadly encounter works for this movie. But I don't like that form of storytelling, and I don't feel like that it builds on itself to give me this great experience of what a Western can be, because I have seen Westerns that I've really liked, and this one did not live up to those ones. So I know I'm in the minority on this one, and that's okay. I would say it's a good movie, but not a great movie. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this special episode where we talked about True Grit. We do appreciate your patronage. Please like, rate, subscribe, share us with a friend or two, and follow us on social media at IDYP_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us at idrinkyourpodcast@gmail.com. Next week, we've got 2 movies left in 2010, and we'll be watching the British terrorism comedy 4 Lions. British terrorism comedy. Have either of you seen that movie?
I've only heard that it's pretty damn funny, but
okay. I'm excited.
How do you make something like that funny?
Before we go, Dylan and Brandon, I'd like to hear both of your impressions on this. Rooster Cogburn, such a distinct way of speaking. Give me your impression of Rooster Cogburn saying, "I drink your podcast, I drink it up."
You got a cooler beard than me, so you got to go for it.
Thank you. Podcast? Well, I'll take your podcast and I'll just drink it right on up with your podcast.
That's really good. Oh my
I can't. I'm done.
It's the fucking beard. It's the beard.
It is, man. It's the beard.
100%.
Yeah, dude. The beard plays, man. I can't.
Brandon,
I can't.
I'm gonna give you a pass, man. Because
please.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next week.
Yo, take it easy, y'all.
Bye.